All of us already know the bad news. We know that we are in the middle of an extraordinary crisis, that humanity's destiny, future is at stake right now, that perhaps we may become extinct, or we could take a quantum leap to become the new human that the prophecies of the Himalayas and of the Native American people speak about, a quantum jump. We're living in the middle of an extinction event. Number 6, since life first appeared on this planet. And during these extinction events, Mother Nature takes her foot off of the brake and steps on the evolutionary accelerator. During normal times, ordinary times, evolution follows the laws of Newtonian physics, slow, gradual, incremental, in between generations. Your children will be smarter and better looking than we are. During times of crisis, evolution follows the laws of quantum physics. Biologists call it quantum speciation. Not in between generations, but within generations. You and I have the capability of becoming this new human. And to do that, we need to do what I call the experiment of n is equal to 1. N is the number of people in a research study. If you do a medical research study, you want N to be really big, 1,000 people, so it can be valid for the general population. But today, we need to do the experiment of N is equal to 1. My experiment is called Alberto, and your experiment is you. And if you don't do the experiment, guess what? You get to be in the control group. And the control group is that great, big, fat part of the bell curve that is the way that Americans live and get old and die, taking multiple medications, bedridden, strapped onto a wheelchair. We don't want to be that. We want to become an outlier. We want to become the new human. And to do that, we need to have a skill set that is different from the one that has gotten us into the trouble that we're in today. And this is the ancient shamanic skill set. The medicine men and women that knew the ways between the visible and the invisible world, that could future track. Not only could they follow the buffalo, where they were going to be tomorrow or the next day, they could follow the destiny of humanity. They could throw a grappling hook way into the future to discover who we're becoming 10,000 years from today and bring that information back to accelerate the evolution of the body, to heal us from disease, to make us disease-proof. Extraordinary the possibilities we have available today. This is why I put this training program together, so we could work with an ancient set of tools that upgrade the quality of the energy field that surrounds the physical body and that organizes the body in the same way that a magnet organizes iron filings on a piece of glass. If we can upgrade the quality of the energy field, we upgrade the quality of the body, we upgrade the quality of the brain, and we can acquire extraordinary powers, superpowers, that not only allow us to create health, but allow us to create beauty in your world and in the world. Let me tell you a little bit about this skill set. Traditionally, the shamans speak about it as the medicine wheel, with the 4 cardinal directions, south, west, north, and east. And they attribute a power animal to each one of these directions. And the south is the serpent. And the skills that you acquire in the south is about shedding the past the way the serpent sheds her skin, which is all at once. We don't have time to spend the next 5 years in therapy healing our childhood. We need to shed all of those old stories, like the serpent sheds her skin. Remember that trauma, we all have trauma. Trauma is not what happened to you. There are no traumatic events, there are only traumatic experiences. It's how the story lives within you. The first and most fundamental skill set is to shed those stories that are full of limiting beliefs and self-judgment and criteria about what's possible for you to do in the world or not. Shedding it like the serpent sheds her skin, all at once, as an act of love and an act of power. Then from the south, the way of the serpent, we go to the west. This is the way of jaguar medicine. You know, jaguars have no predators in the rainforest. And this is the way of no enemies, of having no enemies in this world or the next. But this is a little bit difficult to understand because for Amazonian peoples, there's no difference between being killed by a jaguar and being killed by a microbe. For us, being killed by a microbe is a disease, an illness, and being killed by a jaguar is bad luck. It's an accident. For the shamans, they're the same thing. You have to be in right relationship with life. Otherwise, it's going to begin looking at you as lunch. So in the west direction, we heal those parts of ourselves that we project onto others. What Carl Jung described as the shadow. We own all of these parts of ourselves. We own them and we befriend them. We no longer fight with our demons. We learn that we can feed them instead of fighting with them and turn them into allies. We discover the journey beyond death, the journey to infinity. And we discover it by going through it. And in doing so, we heal the most fundamental fear of humanity. And it is the fear of death. And this is the fear that creates psychosomatic disease, that sets off our fight or flight system, the fear that we're going to disappear, to vanish, and to cease to be. We heal it by discovering that there's no such thing as death. It's simply a gateway that we go through. But you cannot do it by reading about it. You do it by having the experience. And in doing so, you discover jaguar medicine, fearlessness, to live fearlessly in this life, and to transform the fear that lives within us into love, what the Andean peoples call munai. Love is the fundamental force of creation. It's not that warm feeling that you have in your belly when you meet someone you like. That's different. Love is that fundamental force field of the cosmos that you can participate with to create beauty, to create joy, to create health, and to create a sustainable future for humanity. Jaguar medicine, so important. From there we go to the north direction. The north is the way of hummingbird. And hummingbirds are extraordinary creatures. I know that in some of the countries where some people live, the European countries, they have no hummingbirds. But the hummingbirds migrate from Brazil to Canada, and they're not even supposed to be able to fly. They don't wait around saying, you know, we don't have enough time or enough wings or enough money or the kids are not grown. They say yes to the calling from spirit. And when you say yes, then the universe begins to line up behind you. It has your back. It looks after you. At that point, you embark on the hero's journey. Our society today makes a lot of money by keeping us as victims. Victims of a diagnosis, victims of our upbringing, of our childhood, of our trauma. The way of the north is the way of the hero, where you embark on a heroic journey into your possibilities, into who you are becoming. It's the way of the hero. And the way of the hero is a lot more fun than the way of the victim. It's a lot more pleasant and much less painful. But the hummingbird teaches us how to drink only from the nectar of life, not to drink anymore from the garbage of life, to drink only from the nectar. And the process, the skill set that we learn in this direction is the soul retrieval process. We can accomplish in a couple of sessions of soul retrieval what can take years to do in psychotherapy, recovering that part of ourselves that we lost when we experience trauma. And see, what happens when we experience trauma is that our destiny is derailed. We're no longer guided by destiny, and we come into the grip of fate. And the problem with fate is that it's fatal, it's deadly. It's been preordained for you by your genetics or by the drama in your family. But in the north direction, you discover that you are not the product of your past. You're not your stories, that you can become the storyteller. You are the storyteller. You can write your own destiny. The next book, the book of your life, is in your hands. And how do you write it? You write it heroically. You write a beautiful story. But to do that, of course, we need to have done the south direction work. We need to have done the work of Jaguar, which also includes releasing, shedding those values and those beliefs that are dysfunctional, that don't work anymore, that belong to another century, to the Middle Ages, and embodying the values and the belief structures, the coordinates of who we are becoming in the next decade, in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years, so that we can keep up with this extraordinarily rapid rate of change that is happening in the world today. And then in the north, when we recover the parts of ourselves that we lost, that we compromised, in order to be liked, to be loved, to do what our parents wanted us to do what we thought we should do, but that went against our fundamental nature, we recover our essential self and we reclaim our destiny. We embark on that great heroic journey of the hummingbird. And then life becomes very sweet, like the nectar that the hummingbirds live on. And then from the north, we go to the east. This is the way of the eagle, of opening our eyes, of awakening our vision so that we can perceive and understand the underlying, the true nature of reality. And once we do, wow, this is extraordinary. We're no longer then seduced by the misinformation, by the half-lies, by the deceit, by that we're in the middle of today. We don't know what's true anymore. Well, in the east direction, you discover that you're no longer a victim of things that are not real or not true. You're no longer in the grip of the great lie that so much of civilization is living under. And what happens is that you stop looking for the truth. And instead, you bring truth to every action, to every meeting, to every encounter. You bring truth to it, and in the process, it becomes truthful. And the shamans of old said that if you can practice truth, speaking truth, that's why they spoke so little. If you can practice speaking the truth, eventually everything you say becomes true. You participate in co-creating the cosmos. Eagle medicine is about spreading your own wings so you can always fly wing to wing with a great spirit. And the skill set in this direction that we learn is the skill set of infinity, of how do we take our consciousness with you in the journey beyond death? How do we experience infinity today so that we don't have to wait till the last day of our life, so that we can be one with this cosmic universal field that is literally outside of time, but manifest in time. I am a manifestation in time of an infinite self. But if I, of course, begin to identify with this time-bound Alberto, I'm going to be terrified at the prospect of losing it. And what happens in the East is that you discover your infinite, undying nature, and in doing so, you can become part of the great transition that humanity is going through, helping the old humanity to die so that the new humanity, the new human, you and I, the new human can be born. And when it is born, it changes your entire biology, your physiology. You no longer need to learn immunity by getting sick. You develop a new body that becomes resilient. Because remember, things are going to happen in life. Accidents, incidents, diagnoses. And it's not so much about keeping that from happening, but about becoming resilient so you can bounce back and take part in an extraordinary experiment I'm going to tell you about. There are about 40 million species in the planet. And out of those 40 million species, only 3 of them do not have a death program in their DNA. And that's humans, whales, and dolphins. We are taking part in an experiment in longevity, maybe even in immortality. That's extraordinary. All of the other 39.9 million species, the moment that the female is no longer able to bear children, she's eliminated. There are no grandmothers in nature. There's no menopause in nature. The female is eliminated. Except in our, we have grandmothers. Extraordinary. A woman today in Europe or America can live to be 80 years old. That's 4 decades after her childbearing years are finished. Extraordinary. How do we take part in this experiment? Well, we take part in this experiment by watching what we eat. Eating well, eating organic, by watching what we think. Our emotions, healing our emotions. Toxic emotions are deadly. They're the prime cause of disease. It's by healing our journey, coming up with a sacred map for our journey through this world and through this life. And then by upgrading the quality of our luminous energy field, downloading the codes for human 2.0, who we are becoming. This is the medicine wheel. It's an ancient map, it's an ancient vehicle, extraordinary, that is as relevant today as when it was first discovered or maybe brought to us by the star beings 50,000 years ago. Extraordinary map that you can be part of and that you need to become part of so that you can create the kind of health you want to take with you for the rest of your life. What I have done with my work has been to translate these ancient strategies into contemporary maps that are based on neuroscience, on biology, but that keep intact the extraordinary spiritual practices that are the ones that accelerate evolution. All of this wisdom and information is available to you in our energy medicine training program. The reason I did this program, I created it, is because it saved my life. And I realized the importance of these ancient wisdom teachings. When I first began to study them, my professor said, these ignorant Indians, they can't even read or write. And I would say, yeah, but they built cities in the clouds like Machu Picchu. They built pyramids. You need to know a little architecture and mathematics to build a pyramid. Here's an ancient body of knowledge, and I spent many years, 40 years of my life researching it, and now it's available in a 6-month program. You don't need to go through 40 years of mountain climbing and hiking and studying and personal transformation like I did. Now it's in a very clean, viable, discrete form that is applicable to our world today. Some of you may wonder, how can you do this program online? How does it work? I mean, Alberto spent 30 years in the mountains working with the shamans and washing dishes and peeling potatoes and doing ceremony. How am I going to get this online? It really works. It's extraordinary. Shamans have always worked in the field, in the quantum field. And now with our online resources, we can work directly in the field, in the energetics. But let me take you through not only the teaching, but how you go about learning it. First of all, we have a very comprehensive guidebook that will take you through each one of the modules. The modules take you through the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. I do all the teaching. Marcella actually helps me also with some of the modules, but we show you how it's done. I will first introduce you to the information, to the material, then do a demonstration, and then bring you into the sacred. You'll learn the skills, and you'll get to review them on a weekly basis with our senior teachers in live calls with them. So you will be guided through each one of the skills and through each one of the steps. You'll break into small groups so you can share with each other how you learn. It's not only important what you learn, but your own learning process. And when I'm sharing with somebody from another country, perhaps, I begin to discover what I may have missed in the teaching. So this is very collaborative, participatory, and not the traditional masculine, I am the authority, you are the student. We discover together. You'll get the rites of passage, the initiations that always happen in the invisible world. You get them remotely, as effective and as powerfully. So that the modules are taking you step by step through each of the pillars of the medicine way. And at the same time, you'll be able to participate in the Grow a New Body program so that you begin to cellularly master these strategies by noticing how your health improves, how you grow a new body that ages and heals differently. You learn also about the neuroscience. It's important. You've got to understand how your brain works and what is breaking your brain today and how you can repair it and upgrade it so that you can help your loved ones and your patients to go through their own healing process at an accelerated rate. You know, we've had 100 years of psychotherapy and very little to show for it. In the 6 months you're going to spend training with us, really being guided and held through each one of the modules and each one of the steps, you'll see how quickly the human body and the human psyche and our soul is designed to heal. We're designed to heal very rapidly. And these are the ancient strategies that you will learn, and we will make sure that you learn them before we let you go. And one of the bonuses, of course, is you get lifetime access so that you can come and review. In fact, I do that. I go back to the course because I forget what some of the foundation processes, like resetting fight or flight. This is at the core of our teaching, because most of us were born into families that were not safe, including myself. And no one knows how to reset the fight or flight system that I had turned on from the minute that I was born. In fact, even from before. I'll share a personal story with you. When my mother and father were married, my mother was very naive and innocent, and she'd had very little experience in intimacy. And the day that I was conceived, she was terrified. And my father had had a little bit too much whiskey. And in that moment of terror and whiskey, I was conceived. My destiny was selected. We want to go back and clean that up until we can do that kind of soul recovery. Even at the level of our DNA, we're not going to find the wholeness and the healing that we seek today through our psychotherapies or meditation practices. So you're held through the training, and we make sure that you develop the skill set, and then you have lifetime access to the wisdom teachings. This is, to me, one of the most valuable elements, because sometimes it's almost too much information for you to digest. It has to be absorbed cellularly, and it takes time for that to happen. So you'll be able to come back and refer to it at your leisure. And as you grow your practice, whether you're a professional, a body worker, massage therapist, psychotherapist, medical doctor, or simply doing it for your own healing, you have access to this valuable library of ancient wisdom to guide you into a healed and whole and healthy destiny. You not only join a training program, you join what we call an IU, a community, a tribe of men and women that are dedicated to their own healing and to the healing of the planet. You become part of a community. You come home to your community, to your village that you have always belonged to. See, the shamans understand that we're born again and again. We reincarnate, and we reincarnate as spiritual communities to serve a particular mission during times of crisis, like we're living in now. You come back home to your community, and you do your work within the IU, within the community, helping each other to remember, to embody the wisdom, and to put it into practice. If you feel that you'd like to go deeper into this work, I invite you to talk to one of my staff. I have a number of academic advisors that can explore and discuss the program with you and see if it's right for you and if you're right for the program. If you'd like to do that, reach out. We're happy to spend some time with you on the phone and explore this path of the ancient wisdom keepers. And you'll understand why we're basing this on neuroscience, on the understanding and the workings of the human brain. We have an ancient brain that says, tomorrow I'll do what's good for me. Tomorrow I'll go to the gym. Tomorrow I'll meditate. Tomorrow I'll start eating well. Don't wait for tomorrow. The moment is now. Say yes to your calling if you feel the calling, and take part in that experiment and becoming that new human today. The moment is now. We're living in an apocalyptic, extraordinary moment full of opportunity. You really want to become that new human. Be part of that extraordinary experiment in infinity that Mother Nature is offering us. I invite you to join me, explore it for yourself, discover who you can become.